Here today with Dr. Khalfani. We sponsored by yesterday's Unisex Salon and Platinum Cuff Entertainment Group. We here right now talking to the doctor. He's going to enlighten us on some of the things that's going on as he's running for Congress. Give him a minute. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, brother.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure.
And you have the floor. Tell us what you're doing so we can have a better understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here today.
It's
an honor to really be engaged and to know that what you're doing here is benefiting the community,
right.
And that's what I'm striving to do.
Right.
Is the same type of thing, is to talk to the people and make sure the people know that we work together to bring about change.
Right.
So I'm just going to start off. I want to give you a little background about who I am first and foremost. I'm a professor of sociology and African studies.
Oh my God!
I've been teaching for the last, here in Newark at Essex County College, I've been teaching for the last 16, going on 17 years.
What a blessing! What a blessing!
Yeah. And before that, I taught at Fairleigh Dickinson. I taught at Seton Hall, University of Pennsylvania, University of Chicago, University of California, Santa Cruz,
right.
And Irvine. I taught classes at all those places.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a great history we got going on right here. So y'all tune in. Don't go nowhere. We have plenty of content for you as the doctor takes us through some of the things that he wants this community to have. And he's going to update us on all the things that he's doing. Go ahead, Doc.
Yes, sir. So I just want to let the people know that I got my education. I got a bachelor's and a master's and a PhD in sociology. The last two at the University of Pennsylvania in Philly. And, being an educator really helped me to understand about what's going on in the community. Mm-hmm. And studying sociology, I study social problems, mm-hmm. right? What are the problems that are going on? And then I develop solutions to them, mm-hmm. right? So, you may have people who are maybe in office right now, but are they educated folks to know the problems and to be able to develop the solutions to those problems? Right. And so that I'm not only just going to have a staff who can help do that, mm-hmm. but I'm going to be leading the cause. Right. So that's I think one of the main differences, that when you look at somebody who, like myself, mm-hmm. Has been in this process of doing community-based work, mm-hmm. for over 30 years, mm-hmm. right? And understanding that there is a possibility of change. It's just hard work, and we got to come together and challenge ourselves and find ways to work together so that we're really
unified.
Well, that we think differently, because that's part of our challenge. Right. We have to think differently to do differently. Okay. Right. So sometimes we want to just we say, okay, I got an idea, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, but we didn't vet that thoroughly. Mm-hmm. Right. So we've got to make sure that whatever it is that we're going to do, we do a thorough job of analyzing and breaking it down, so that as we put it back together, it's put together in such a way that it can't be torn apart. And that's the solution. That's part of that's the basis of the solution, is what I'd say, is that sometimes I wrote a book. Okay. And let us know the book. Give us the book so we can go out there and read it and get some better understanding of what you're capable of doing. Yes, sir. So I wrote a book called The Hidden Debate. Mm-hmm. Came out in 2005. Looks at affirmative action in South Africa and the United States. Mm. I lived there for a while, and I studied Zulu and Afrikaans in South Africa. So Ngi Kulumi isi Zulu kan I speak a little Zulu. Okay. And did you get that? And then the language that was used by those who were the controllers and the oppressors was English and Afrikaans. Right. So the ek kan praten verstaan 'n bietjie Afrikaans. Mm-hmm. So I speak a little bit of both. But spend a lot of time studying and learning. Right. And what I found out in the end, though, was that so much of time we spend on what we think are the social problems really are only the surface of the problems. Mm. And we don't get into the meat of the problems. Mm-hmm. And so what I found out was that the idea of looking at affirmative action, we all debate on affirmative action. Should we have it? Shouldn't we have it? And I said, that's really not getting the answer. Mm-hmm. And I said, what do we do to get deeper to find out? And mm-hmm. I found out that really the answer was, the challenge was looking at divergent ways of thinking about liberty, equality, and justice. Mm-hmm. And so I'm incorporating that same type of thinking right here in my bid for Congress. Did you hear that? Now, also, since we're talking about that bid for Congress, right? And we have some things, this is a card here, that some of the things that's challenging and some of the things that you want to address, and so that they have a better understanding of how you can actually
have a solution for the problems that occur right now.
Yes.
So you have some job creations that you wanted to do. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So job creation, I think that, first of all, the job creation for us comes under our plan looking at economy, right? So
Okay.
I think that we got to deal with the economy. We got to look at inflation. We got to look at job creation. And in the process of that, one of the things that I want to suggest is that I have a whole program talking about buy back the block. And I think that we need some community development block grants, which are grants that come from the federal government, to help within the community to be able to buy buildings, right? And to buy a whole block of buildings. And therefore, the people in the community end up, what they're doing is that they then own they're investing in themselves, right? And you don't necessarily have to be the one who's paying rent anymore, right? Because everything that you pay that's quote unquote rent is part of what's coming to you. So now that so then you're taking care of the building. You got to make sure your lights and gas and the heat and everything, you got to do all that. But in the end, that if that property increases in value, everybody who's got a piece of it increases in got equity, right? And that equity then
increases your wealth,
increases their wealth, and increases their family's wealth.
And it increases pride too,
without a doubt.
It increases pride when you own something. All of a sudden, you become more mindful of the things that you own. So it increases a little pride in yourself to make sure that those things aren't destroyed. Go ahead, Doc.
No, that's right on point. And so part of that, though, is that someone would say, well, how do you finance this? And what are you financing? What are you doing? So my thing is to look at it this way, is that you bring to the community some aid in funding so that so maybe the people in the community don't have enough money to get the loan to get it started. So then the federal government can help underwrite part of the loan to when you got enough invested persons, right? So that then you got all those people working together on the same thing, and that what they're working towards is putting that initial thing there. What it was, is buying if it's a building already there, buying the building, or if it's just a vacant land, then building a building, and then they can specify how they want it all divvied up, and then build that in a way that then you have in there places where jobs for people who are small business owners get that. So it's similar kind of to the micro grants process,
right,
but it's more so focusing on infrastructure itself, the buildings and how to secure that. And that's how I think that we can do some changes and not, people are always talking about, for instance, when you have other folks come in there into the community and develop it, and the problems and the challenges that means, and the frustrations, because they're looking at it and saying, well, you got all these people who are not from the neighborhood, not from the communities, coming in, and they have access to it, and maybe they have more money and they can buy it and push us out. Well,
gentrifying the community,
right,
pushing us out.
But the other side of that is that the translation in that, and I think is erroneous, is that sometimes the translation is that we don't want development. No, we want development. We want new businesses in our communities. We don't want buildings that are falling apart. We don't want vacant properties. Right. So that we want development. We just want to be included in it.
Right.
And I think this is a way to be included in it. Right. So that who else do you see putting a platform forward to talk about how we improve the community, but we also have investment in the community and we own it. So that's what I'm looking at. That's
spot on, because like I said earlier, it's a beautiful thing when one person and the whole community involved in each other and able to create a generation that has also be able to obtain their own business, obtain their own property, and be able to have an outlook that their future is bright.
Right.
Okay. So also there's something, and so there's also this thing called union protection that I wanted to get into. So how do you go about that?
What was it? How to go about what now?
Union protection.
Oh yeah. Well, union. So that the idea is that, well, first and foremost, I'm in a union, right? So I'm a professor.
Which one are you in?
I'm in NJEA, which is the New Jersey Education Association. Okay. So I've been in that since I've been at the college. Okay. So I've always been.
That's many years, y'all.
and my father was my father worked in Los Angeles County, and he was part of the union. So I've always had union energy and spirit in my family, right? And so for me, those are powerful tools and ways for me to look at that, and so that I value what unions bring to the table. But at the same time, when I say union protection, it doesn't just mean unions. It means looking at if I'm going to talk about job creation and unions. So that means that we have to talk about how do we have the corporations to have a better conversation with the workers, so that then we can both build businesses, and make sure that workers get good wages. Right. So that I think we have to do both of those things simultaneously. And with that, though, I think that one of the things that's lacking is that we almost trick the people, and that is that, for instance, take the $15 an hour minimum wage. I mean, it's a good thing and it sounds good, but at the other side of it is that it's phased in over so many years that with inflation going up,
you'd be old and gray by the time you're able to really take care of your family.
Exactly. And
but that's another good point. But that's another reason why we should, as you said, we should buy back the block. So now we don't have to worry about $15 hour jobs. When we create our own jobs, we create our own wealth.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly. And when we do that, also the other piece is that when we look at what that $15 an hour means, and we look at inflation, that maybe that $15 an hour don't mean as much.
Especially when it's over here, especially when it's a course of 5 years.
Exactly.
Right. When it's integrated. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
But that's not a national minimum wage. I think we need a national minimum wage that's increasing. And so then that's going to push the envelope, right? So then we have a bunch of states that are changing minimum wage standards, which is good. But I think that it needs to happen in terms of job creation on a federal level. Yeah. But that's piece. See, the thing is that I always argue is that we have to be holistic in what we do, and I don't want to be piecemeal in it, right? And it's not like I'm naive in thinking that I'm gonna get into Congress and instantly change everything. No, we know it's a process, but we're gonna be fighting, right? And that we're gonna go in there and push hard, and it's not about me. When I get elected, it's not about me, it's about the people. Right. So that when that's why our motto is that we are the change. I didn't say Khalfani is the change. Right. I didn't say I am the change. Right. Because I don't mean anything without the people. Right. So that's the thing that we have to stay on. And I've got people around me to help keep me grounded. So I don't become one of the people where you get there and then you forgot about where you came. No. We stand grounded through the process, because that's really why I'm there. I mean, I have a job. I'm not looking for another job. I'm looking for an opportunity to change things for the people. Right. I love that. And, it's so ironic because you get a lot of people that's running for office, and once they get there, everything that they said changed. But there was one particular thing that you said earlier, and I'll bring it back to reference when you talk about the community and building it. When you see that all wealthy people, they always have what they call a team. What you just said, my team. That's right. Because you need a team when you're trying to create wealth and you try to better yourself. You need accountants, you need lawyers, you need people that put you in the right position, in the right situation, so you know what you're doing. So anytime that us as a people start trying to progress, you need a team, like the doctor just said. Yes. Go ahead, sir. Yeah, the team is key. Also, I think that one of the things I'm gonna switch back to economy for a minute. Yes, sir. And this kind of floats over with economy. This point really addresses all three: economy, recovery, and equality. And the reason it does is because it's such a penetrating piece, especially in urban areas in our communities. And that is that when you look at the issues dealing with, say, for instance, reentry, right? So then you got people who now have in New Jersey the ability to vote. And they don't know they have the ability to vote, right? So we got to educate people. You've been on parole, probation, and all that stuff. So you can vote again. That's not like some places they take voting from you for life. But I think that needs to be addressed as well, right, on a federal level. But is that just in the state of Jersey, or is that in? No, it's not in every state. It's in some. I don't know the exact number of states that it's in, but I do know in Jersey they passed a law. We want to find out what states those things are. Where you are able to vote even if you're a convicted felon, so y'all can get out there and elect people that have the change. Yeah. So people who think that way and are willing to push for that, then I think that those people we need to bring on board.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
not just me. We need to. So I need to bring in some other people.
A team.
Exactly.
A
team of even elected people.
Right.
So that it's about people in the street, but also people who are elected. So we want people on a city council level,
Right.
And you know, all the municipalities that we represent.
Right.
And that way we have a much broader way of impacting the people around us and the things around us.
Right.
When we're talking about the issues looking at recovery, I want us to also think about, you know, we have to think about this pandemic and how it's impacted people, and how it's impacted them from the perspective of housing to a great extent, whether it's the renters or mortgages. And so that you have some folks who have been affected in terms of their mortgages, and other folks who've been affected in terms of their the rents. And so then, you know, there was a moratorium on the rents and mortgages, but at some point all that's gone away, right? And so then you know, New Jersey's done some good things in terms from the state and the county level, and even some of the municipality, in terms of helping people with their rents. And so then that's been good. But you know, if you weren't paying your rent for 9 months, and you had rental assistance for 6 or 7 months, that means when the moratorium ended, that you have 2 months due, plus your current month is coming up. It's about to be the first is around the corner.
Right.
So then what do you do now? Right? Because then you have your impact. Yeah. Well, if you couldn't pay your first month's rent,
right,
how do you pay 3 months rent?
Absolutely.
Right. And so then the concern is about homelessness, right? And are we in a position where we're creating a situation where you're going to have greater homelessness because of the things that are going on? And then in terms of the mortgage piece, is that you know, that with the moratorium, most of the your interest and principal was moved to the back of your loan, so it was a moving to the back end. And the challenge with that though is that, okay, now the mortgage companies you mean they're going to collect interest twice on that? So they collected interest in the first, now they're moving into the back, they're going to collect interest again. And I say, no, we need to put a stop to that, right? They shouldn't be able to collect more interest a second time on something that you had to pay, because it would be different if you didn't pay and you know, it was your own situation, but you didn't have control of the situation. So therefore, if we had a moratorium and the moratorium said you didn't have to pay, so then why would you be allowed to collect interest from that person? That's another injury now. You see what I'm saying?
Double jeopardy.
Yeah, like double jeopardy. Double jeopardy is not okay in courts, so it shouldn't be.
It should be okay without finances. But who can? What position would you fight for that? Like, who would you go to fight for that particular right?
No, we would write legislation. So Congress writes legislation. So the whole point of being in Congress is to write legislation, write laws. And so we're going to push for those laws that protect the people.
How many votes would you need for that?
Well, I mean, you always need a majority on whatever it is you're doing. So you would have to have enough to have it go through the Congress and then through the Senate and then to the president, right? So you know, it's always a battle. It's a process. Right. But the thing is that you at least got to be bringing legislation to the table. Right. And so, you know, if you sit there and you're not bringing legislation to the table, why are you there? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Well, why are you there?
I know you're going to be fighting for us tooth and nail. So I'm glad to be here with this podcast, so I can firsthand. I got to be with the man. Okay, so we can get into the infrastructure and development.
Yeah. Okay. So the infrastructure piece is you know, they just passed a huge infrastructure bill, over $1 trillion, and money is getting ready to go out. My concern with the infrastructure piece is that oftentimes that money doesn't come to urban areas, right? And
did Newark get excuse me, I'm sorry to cut you off. Did they get $2.5 million for the infrastructure?
But no? Even if they did, $2.5 million is no money. Right. You see what I'm saying? Right. I mean, if you talk about building a road, you got to redo the road. $1 million is not real money. You need to be bringing back billions of dollars to have an actual impact. If you look at the New Jersey Transit here, but if you go in East Orange and you look at the overpass for the train, it's falling apart. But you don't see the same thing in suburban areas and other places. So my thing is that we got to have equity about where the money is spent. We want to make sure that it's spent in ways that are conducive to our communities. Right. If the bridges and the roads are not in good state of repair in our communities, it's not good enough to say that, oh yeah, well New Jersey got $1 billion or $50 billion or whatever it may be. What did these areas that are around here get?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And how is that money making sure that it's being
spent the right way
and shown
allocated
exactly allocated to the community in ways that is this uplifting.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a certain way that we can find out each municipality and how much did they get from that budget?
Yes. So there are ways. So most of the way. So let me just kind of talk about the CDBG money, right, and how that works.
Okay.
So CDBG is Community Development Block Grants, and this is money that comes from the federal government, and then most of the time it goes to the state. And then the state allocates it to the county, and the county allocates it to the municipality.
There's a lot of allocations.
Oh yeah, that's the process.
It's a serious breakdown. But go ahead, my beloved.
So then the question becomes, are the municipalities getting that money fairly, right? And who gets the money and where does it go? So that's the thing. We want to be able to follow through on the process. So one of the things I'm proposing is that we have a better transparency, right? So you shouldn't even have to ask that. You should be able to click a button and go online, and you'll know, okay, New Jersey got $300 million for this particular thing. And then it went to these particular counties, first of all. Okay. And each county got this much. And then each municipality within the county got this much. And now you know it's transparent. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because then you can come and say, well, why didn't this one get X, Y, and Z? Did they have an application? Because then they have to apply to get that money from the county, right? So did they have an application? If there was a weakness in the application, so how can we help to shore up the weakness in the application? Was the application sound? Well, why did they get in? This one over here didn't. Right, so so when you have tools in hand, the people can ask questions. If you don't have tools in hands, all you can say is, "Oh, it looked like X, Y, and Z," but you don't have no tools, so you can't ask the proper question. Right, so we want stuff easy and transparent. The federal government should be able to. You should be able to call the IRS or the Social Security Department or the Welfare Department. You should be able to call any of those offices, and when you call, oftentimes what happens is that it's busy, and you can be on the phone for an hour or two and never nobody take your call. But in industry, in big business, you can call one of the Fortune 500 companies, and you call them, and all of a sudden, what happens? You're number 20 in line. Do you want to wait or you want to call back? And you won't lose your place. The technology is there. So why is the federal government not using the same technology as corporations to give a better service to the people?
You know what? You hit a good point, because I just was on the phone with the IRS and I had to wait almost 2 hours, and they had nothing that implicates you want to keep your place in line, press number 1, somebody will get back to you. So you have to sit there and wait. So I went through that process. Yeah. So go ahead, finish.
So me too. I've been through that process, and I know that we can be more efficient. We can do better service for the people. If the corporations who may have a lot of money, but their money is no different than the money that the federal government have in terms of dollar amount, right? The federal government dollar amount is greater. And so then how are you going to tell me that we can't do? And the computers in many places are antiquated. So we need to have all the computers. We need an infrastructure bill that a technology infrastructure bill, so that the technology that's in all of the offices have updated modern servers, software, servers, and machines, right? So then people are up to speed, and they can do stuff that is efficient for the people. That's people oriented. Right? That's not business oriented, that's people oriented. That's what we need to be.
So also we have inflation prevention and planning. So give me a little bit on your take on that.
So, right now we see that the inflation, gas prices, you look outside, you say gas prices is ridiculous. You want to walk where you got to go because gas is high.
I got a joke, right? It was Cat Williams, right? He said, you shouldn't be making a decision, a financial decision pressed on the gas, whether I can eat today or I can go to work tomorrow. Right. It should never be that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And with that though, inflation is so high that even the food is high. So then now we have to, if you were choosing between gas and food, even that's a hard choice because the food is expensive, and so then we've got to figure out why is it that the food is expensive. That oftentimes is said is supply chain, And maybe that part of that's true, but at the same time, maybe it's not completely true. I'm a sociologist. I do research. I look out there at the airport and I see, in those parking lots, thousands, not only containers, but thousands and thousands of cars, and they'll tell you that there's a car shortage. I say, I just saw a mile worth of cars. How is there a car shortage?
So who's getting paid for that?
That's the question. We don't know.
All right. So because they got maybe on a car market right now, you go up to like maybe 10% over the car price.
Exactly.
And you just told me there's miles and miles of cars there. So why is it a problem getting the cars from the port into the dealerships? And who's gaining by that? Who are these people that's gaining the profits while holding those cars in the port? Because there's some kind of corruption going on. Not to me to say it though, but go on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's corruption or what, but that's something we can investigate.
Right.
And we can make sure that if there's cars there, that we can do something about it.
10 minutes left.
And so then we want to make sure that we have a thorough process so that the people understand what's going on, and we provide the services. That's what we're supposed to be providing services to the people who elected us. This is not
to get information, right?
But this is, being in office is not your job, quote unquote. Being in office is your service position. Some people get confused and they think that they're entitled to being in office. No, it's not an entitlement. Every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years, there's an election. And so when that election happens, that means that if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do,
you're out of there.
You got to go, right? And that's how we have to look at it. Is that we want to, so if I'm not doing what I got to do, then I got to go, but once we go in there, but if we don't do what we got to do, then I should go. You see what I'm saying? And that's how we have to think about this differently. And when we look at the issues of inflation, that we got to look at how what the long-term implications are, and how we come up with some systems to be more proactive for folks. How do we teach people, like you said before, right? We need to have better, not just entrepreneurship opportunities. I think we need to have a better financial literacy, right? If we have better financial literacy at a grade school level, I'm talking about when they're in elementary. If kids started getting financial literacy information then, and knowing about managing money, knowing about investing in themselves, and in their families, and in their community.
Right.
I think you'd have a revolution.
The mindset had completely changed.
Martin Luther King, people focus on Martin Luther King talking about I had a dream, but Martin Luther King said we need a revolution of thought. Right. And so that's what we really need. I'm arguing that we need to think differently so that we can do differently.
Right.
And I'm one who thinks differently. And so that I'm creating a space for other people to think differently so that we collectively can do differently.
Right. It's all about mindset.
Yes.
Once we change our mindset, things will elevate, and we'll elevate as a people. But continue on, because the producer Adam just told us we only have 10 minutes, or we short of that. So we want to get the a few more things that we have.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we should go to housing.
Well, we covered housing a little bit, so I'm gonna push this on over to criminal justice reform.
Okay, great.
Great.
So
I think that when we talk about criminal justice reform, and this is under our piece dealing with equity, is that criminal justice reform, we've got to really think about it, that it's not just about police officers. See, we get confused. Once again, we're not thinking and talking holistically. Criminal justice reform deals with police officers. It deals with the judges. It deals with the jury system. It deals with prosecutors, the public defenders. It deals with the correction officers and the whole correction system. And so all of those elements need to be looked at when we talk about criminal justice reform. I don't think it's good enough to just talk about how people are arrested and what the police can and cannot do. I think that's narrow-minded in our approach to it. And it creates a Band-Aid, because if you correct something on a police officer, and so you get all the policing issues corrected, right? We get everything is done. Police are beautiful. They're doing 100% of what they're supposed to be doing. What happens with the judges? What happens with the prosecutors? So when the prosecutors are having false evidences or they're doing other things that are problematic, it wasn't the police officer. It's another piece in the system. But we were looking at piecemeal something, and we never developed a solution to the problem, because we really were trying to have someone or something look at us in a way that we did something. Want to stick our chest? I don't want to stick my chest out, right? That's not about. I want to make sure that that's why I say I work on solving solutions to social problems. If you looking at a Band-Aid issue, you are not going to solve the problem because the Band-Aid
it only covers the wound.
It only covers the wound.
It don't heal it.
It could help, but it's not the thing that's going to say, okay, what caused it in the first place, right? If you got cut, then maybe if there's something sticking out on the side of the building or something, and that's where you go. Well, we need to go fix what's on the building. 10 minutes left. We need to fix that. That's the kind of thing we need to look at, right? And then that has a better way of addressing, because then a second person don't get cut. If you just fix the Band-Aid, you fix it for the one person. But if you fix the cause, you
talk to us, Doc. Talk to us.
You fix it for all the people.
Right.
And that's what we need to be. That's what our mentality needs to switch to. Is about the people and stop being about the person. Right. It's not about the me. It's about the we.
Right.
You know, and so that. In all of those iterations of talking about criminal justice reform, I want us to be holistic about it, right? Let's go and see what the problems are with parole and probation, right? So there's somebody who served their time, but now they're at the whims of parole and probation. Did they serve their time or they didn't serve their time, right? And so should they be allowed to be locked up for another 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? What? And should we have long-term prison sentences that look at where somebody is in solitary confinement? I think we have to address that issue. We haven't really, nobody really want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. We need to address solitary confinement and long-term solitary confinement, because we've had a whole bunch of people in our community who've been in solitary confinement for 10, 15, 20 years. I think that's illegal if you look at the world court, right? So
when you look at that, that destroys the mental. When you isolate somebody for that long a period of time, and then expect them to come back on these streets that you consider and say that they're supposed to maintain a certain level of sanity, how can they when they've been
they can't
in a box for 15 years? Right. Go ahead, sir.
So so that's another. Those are all components of us looking at equality and how that happens, right? And really kind of as we move towards the end, I want us to just kind of talk about healthcare for a minute.
Oh yes, right? Let's get there.
Because most of the folks out there, most of the politicians, even the ones in this race for the 10th district, they're talking about they want Medicare and Medicaid for all, right? And I say, did you ever look at Medicare and Medicaid? Do you know how complex and convoluted Medicare and Medicaid are? And if you have it for all, who is it really going to be for? If you're not getting rid of all that complexity and confusion. So you got people who walking into something, you say, oh, you got it, but it's just confusion. No, let's have a simple system that's accessible to all the people. So I'm saying we need healthcare for all, period. And that I've been places around the world where it's in Canada and
free healthcare.
Yeah, free healthcare. Well, it's not free because the people pay for it through their taxes. And so that when you travel and you see that, there's someone you can walk in and you can get your teeth cleaned. You can get your eyes checked. You can, all these places around the world that have it. And we're the wealthiest country in the world. And we don't have it. It doesn't make sense. You have people who are homeless on the street who don't have access to it. And then what they do have access to is emergency care. And guess what? Emergency care is much more expensive than everything else. So when you get the same treatment you could have got at your primary care physician, is 2-3 times more expensive in the emergency room. So now we've elevated the amount we have to pay, and now the federal government is paying that, right? You elevated how much you have to pay because you can't turn people away. And so now if you had preventative care, then you would have created a different situation.
And it goes back to the tax dollars, right?
It goes back to it.
So it goes back to the tax dollars, then why can't they do the same thing as they do in Canada? If people are paying their taxes, automatically they get free care.
Right. I mean, they have a higher tax base, so people have to be agreeable to have a higher tax base. And I'll go into that for a minute.
Yeah,
I think that we need to have a simple tax. There shouldn't be a way that the wealthiest people in the world pay zero tax on millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, or maybe even billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
Right. Whereas the person who's making 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even $100,000 is paying anywhere from 25 to 30% in taxes. So it hurts that person more than it would, even if the person who was making $1 million a year paid 30% in taxes, right? And so then $1 million, 30%, you're talking $300,000.
Right.
So if that person paid that, what is the difference in terms of how that impacts them as opposed to the person who's making $30,000 and pays 20% or 25%?
Something I was thinking just now when you said that, it's good that you mentioned that, because most of those people that are in business have EIN numbers. And with the EIN number, you don't get taxed as much and you can write off a lot. But we'll get into that another time in another podcast.
But so that's true. So that even in terms of what you can and cannot write off, I mean, I think that if you had the types of services that were available for everybody, basic services, would you have the need to have the income at the same level? Because then you're going to, even the people who are wealthy would be able to go to and get medical care. And part of the problem is I would say the modulation or the differences between the cost of services. So you go to one hospital or one doctor, and this for over here, it costs you $1,000 to get this done. And you go to another one, it's $5,000. Well, and then the insurance company comes in and they're somewhere in between, right? So the insurance, so if the doctor bills for $1,000, the insurance company pays $150, right? Over here, the insurance company pays for the $5,000 when they pay maybe $300, right? So then if it was modulated and there wasn't this buffer in there, it'd be easier to say this because you cut out some of the middleman stuff, right? And then you have a more easy way of looking at what you have to pay and who's paying it, as opposed to the way it is right now.
Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate that. So you want to get into a little bit more, because I think we have a little bit more time. Anything else you want to talk about, or have you just?
Yeah, I think that I just want to wrap up and kind of say that I want to thank you again.
It was a blessing for you to come through here, and I appreciate you even sitting down and having a conversation with me. We need more people like you, that want to generate people of our color wealth and give us mental stability so we can understand what it's all about. And thank you so much for stopping by, my beloved.
I appreciate you.
Sure.
I'm an African American male. I've just been released from incarceration, and I want to do good. I'm tired. I'm dissatisfied with my past life. I don't want to go back to jail no more. What is your stance on guys like me who come home who want this transformation? And I see on your platform you speak of a reentry program. In the Essex County area, are you trying to establish a reentry program for African American males, or what's your take on the reentry program for African American males in the Essex County area?
Yeah. So one of the things. Well, let me just repeat that for maybe people who didn't hear, and that is that the question was that if we have somebody who's been incarcerated and they're coming back in and they want to change their life, what are the resources available, particularly for African American males who are coming back into the society? And my point for that is that first of all, there's a lot of programs out there that exist already, and I think that part of it is knowledge about those programs and the resources through those programs. And then the other part, though, is that I want to have, and I'm glad you asked the question because it maybe remind me of something else, and that is that with folks who are dealing with reentry, as a matter of fact, I just went to the reentry conference that was in Jersey City a week or so ago. And one of the things that I heard and learned is that we need to make sure that we're actually listening to folks who are formerly incarcerated. And so then I want to do some roundtables with formerly incarcerated folks so that we can hear what their issues are. And so that we have a congressional hearing, not just of people who are academics, but actually people who've been incarcerated and are coming back and trying to change their lives so that they themselves can talk to Congress, right? The people who they now have an opportunity to elect. They should also be able to have their voices heard and not through a third party. And so then that's how I would respond to that. And then in terms of African American males, if there aren't specific resources that are addressing African American males, that they could address those issues. And in that round table. Another piece about the round table I wanted to say is that I want to make sure that we have a mayoral round table for the entire 10th district. And so we're going to do some things differently that are not being done now to make sure all the mayors have access to us and that we have access to them. And so together we're going to do that. The election, I want to say this real quick. The election is June the 7th. We need your support. Join me, Akil Khalfani. My website is www.akilkhalfani.com.
Spell it out for him.
That's AKILKHALFANI.com. That's the QR code. You can take a picture of that and you can have that, and then you can just scan that and take you right to the website. The election is June the 7th. I tell you that we are the change. And if we don't come together and do it, it won't happen. So thank you all for coming online, and I want to thank my brother here once again. It's been wonderful.
Yes, sir.
And we got to get back to this again.
Oh no, please do. Thank you so much. We signing off. Everybody have a blessed evening.
Tell me your name.
James. Thank you.